on?
Just relax. Even if everyone else suspects Lenny and... Besides, I doubt Farina understands any more.
Thanks, Navia.
Best of luck to you.
Ah, finally, you're back. Well, how did...
To be honest, you might...
No. We're already very great.
Well now, don't you all look disappointed? That was to be expected, of course. The guilty can never produce proof of their innocence, but don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed should you, my most anticipated foe, concede so...
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial regarding the magic show incident. Firstly, in order for the audience to understand the causes and results of the incident, could we please have Mr. Linney explain?
Yes, of course. I will explain while Lynette demonstrates on stage. All the necessary items have been prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Linney. In that case, you ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands once the trick began, and thus could not have committed the crime.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
In that case, I call upon the prosecution. Lady Farina, do you wish to refute his statement in any way?
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Linney is clearly lying. There is no way you could have been in the box the whole time if you were to abduct Halsey and murder Cowell. In fact, I'd say you were hardly in that tunnel at all.
That is simply your hypothesis based on the presumption that I'm guilty.
Oh, is that so? And if I may ask, what did you hear while you were inside your...
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That's how I kept track of the time and built anticipation for the...
And you didn't hear anything else at all? Nothing that might leave an impression of...
No, nothing.
I see. But when the count reached 30 seconds or so, there was a thud. One so loud that I believe practically everyone heard...
Huh?
Hey, hang on. Something's...
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside the...
I was right by the box, and I definitely heard the thud.
Look at those scales. Could those mean...
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use the words of the magician himself. You never know what can happen in the blink of an eye. Indeed, it seems his alibi can also collapse in the blink of an eye. Of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and my foundations are rock solid. Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
No wonder they did something like this.
So the serial disappearances were the Fatsui's doing. Now it all makes sense.
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably wasn't just an accident.
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything that happened during that 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. I'm sure there is little that needs to be kept secret now. Unless your script already has holes in it. The Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. Good thing I made all those preparations. Seems the all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying off.
Hey, Linny, why didn't you tell us this before?
Order! Order! Mr. Linney, allow me to re-establish the facts. Lady Farina has raised 2 points. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Second, you and Ms. Lynette are both members of the House of... Are these claims true? Please answer my question, Mr.
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to the sentencing already.
What should we do now?
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary? They're already as good as guilty.
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What is there left to discuss?
Order! Order! Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial will reconvene in 1 hour.
So you would stick to Mr. Linney's defense even after knowing what you do now? You certainly have more professionalism than I... In that case, my dear audience, let's allow the joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, this is awkward. I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Traveler and Paimon.
Yeah, sorry. Paimon doesn't know where to start. We trusted you two. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guys. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but Paimon's really mad!
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but please, let me explain. I know you've clashed with the Vitui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if just hearing the word is enough to make you upset. But our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become good friends. That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spending more effort than we need to. Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, too. But still, I'm asking you to trust me. I am no criminal. At least, not in this case.
Sorry. Please. Well, you both say that, but... Right. Let's hear your answer first, and no lies!
Of course. I'll answer any question you ask. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why it has a consciousness. Why can it During our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick, with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which the core is stored.
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about to investigate, I heard someone's voice, which should have been impossible, of course. I was quite certain that I was the only one in the room. That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground, but the countdown was almost finished, so there wasn't time to give it any thought. After that, the homicide occurred just as...
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can about this nation's secrets in order to deal with that prophesized crime.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. I swear, I didn't hide any. It was never my wish to proceed under this cloud of mistrust. But like I said earlier, you can be the judge. If you want to leave because you don't trust the Fatui, there's nothing I can do to stop you.
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
Okay,
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The current problem is that the scales are tipped pretty badly against you. If we want to refute the Hydro Archon's accusations, we're gonna need a seriously watertight defense. Huh? Hope!
Both parties have returned to their positions. When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of...
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their at this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective. Countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the... He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which finally he used the vase to knock her out. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red. So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into... Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that And there you have it. That's the truth.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady...
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Linney experienced, and what he saw. Seems this won't produce a particularly effective rebuttal. Seems this... According to Linney, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation. Linney went... Seems this... Linney did not take...
Attention! When the countdown started, but he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again. And in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent! Paimon did it! Paimon...
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing.
That's right!
my reasoning?
If that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Linny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing—
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine.
Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims? Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? Paimon— Are you sure we don't need to give this— That's right! Linny wasn't in the box. Oh, this means that when the crime— the same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best—
Well, to think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Linny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience. Could there have been a third person? The deceased's name is Cap.
Huh? That can't be— the kill—
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's—
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal— The deceased's name is Cowell. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. So there must have been some fear that— Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. No one entered or left the Opera House. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing— The sound we heard may have come from a clash. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The deceased's name is Cowell. Linny was not in the tunnel. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. Linny was not in the tunnel at that. No one entered or left. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
I see how it is. So this was all just a
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider it? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our... The sound we heard may have come from a... The deceased's name is Cowell. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrance. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. The vase was not broken by chance. It was...
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes. If there's a similar method...
Just a moment, please. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here. Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Linny already knows this. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about 2 complete...
Even so, the truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a...
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that it... Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone. We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled... The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are... water from the primordial sea. The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of... As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by...
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be...
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence.
If people can become water, Does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean...
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partner?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results, but we cannot yet verify the veracity. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet... Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue.
Of course. Thank you. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated...
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make... Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that...
The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with it? I remember there was something else within the rope that held the water tank up. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for... I remember there was... The water from the primordial sea should already have been... Now it seems like the... Lynette was in the magic box. The deceased's name is Cowell. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead... The water from the primordial... The rope that held the water tank... I remember there was something else.
In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope, and the number selector, when the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the... When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his...
Huh. That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing...
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person?
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstance. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to this.
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that they uncovered... I shall now invite him on stage to...
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the luggage of the other... And we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Linny's purse...
What?
That can't be.
Oh, I see. Well, how wonderfully comedic to have your own counterattack only to come back. Does this not clear? My dear citizens, my loyal audience, allow me to present my reasoning and bring this performance to a swift Linny did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all. Indeed, he did leave the scene via the vent. Having made modifications to the props beforehand. But upon his return, ultimately, he not now as much as I. Am I right, Miss?
We've used up all the evidence we collected. There's no... Is this the end of the road?
Oh no! Paimon can't think of anything either. Seems using the water as new evidence was too good a move.
I think we've all seen enough now. And we have ample witnesses to my... I believe this is indeed... Now then, my good, noble chief...
Excuse me, everyone, but I must interject.
Miss, I must ask you not to shout and to respect the...
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. Now, would anyone here like to take a little break from all this debate and see, I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring a young woman who has disappeared back in the flesh, right before your very eyes. Please, do the honors, Mr. Linney. If you... What in the world is she...
No offense, miss, but miracles like that are beyond my scope as a magician.
Come on now, don't be silly. Magic is all about misdirection, isn't it? It often conceals the truth while presenting... But once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth to them once again? And wouldn't such a trick be the most marvelous finale to... Come on, Linny and Lynette. Give it another go. Don't worry. But, as the magic makers and stars of the show, I think I should...
I understand.
And voila!
Sorry for the...
Wait, isn't that Halsey? So, the whole thing about
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, the merit of doing so would lessen my sentence. I was hiding outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one put on... I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me. And then, before I knew it, she...
That'll teach you to underestimate us three.
Where should I begin? I'm sorry. I'm the one who killed Cowell. I admit it.
What? Why?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian. And I'm originally from... I heard that Linny's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket, so I stole one. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Linny was the one who caught me in the act.
Hey, no wonder you look familiar. So, Liddy even mentioned that you were pretty skilled.
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then he even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked... So I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee. But then I got water poured on me for no reason, and then someone jumped into the tunnel to nab me. I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change my clothes and hide in a box containing performance cards. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Can a person even hide in there?
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
This time, we need to tell the entire story. Seems this won't Seems this The strange sound wasn't from a fight. It was Lillian's... The flower vase. Lillian was afraid that she would be recognized if she left.
And it's it! Having been selected out of the blue, her panic only intensified after she entered the tunnel and had water. Hearing the commotion, Cowell leapt into the tunnel, only to discover he did not know that Lillian was not from Fontaine, but was a thief who made her way in, mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial sea needed time to take effect. He tried to force Lillian back into... The two broke the flower vase during the struggle, but Lillian came out on top, knocking Cowell out, and with no way of escaping, she changed her clothes and hid in the costume trunk. She knew that she would have to go through guard inspection if she tried to leave afterward. So, she has been trapped.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over macarons. So, she swiped 2 of them right under our noses. Talk about it.
At this point, all the events that happened in the tunnel have now come to...
Ah, so that...
Bravo!
Now then, Lady Farina, do you wish to speak against the defense? Please answer the question, Lady Farina. Also, if I may add, the trial has not yet ended. As such, I request that the prosecution not leave the room before the proceedings...
What are you No, I have no further arguments. I admit defeat. But really, could you at least have left...
Wow! Look at that! She's like a deflated...
If there are no objections, then as the Chief Justice of Fontaine, I shall once again repeat the false... The actual perpetrator of the serial disappearances, Cowell, selected his next victim from the audience. With some modifications to the selector, he could ensure that the pre-selected young woman, to cover up any evidence while committing the deed, Cowell thought of allowing the water tank to fall, which would conceal the water left behind after the young woman. He also tampered with the rope suspending the water tank, using the fireworks at the end of the performance to cause the tank to drop and hide the watermark. He poured the water from the primordial sea into a balloon during the preparation of the magic box and stuck it to the box's lid. Finally, he passed the prepared hook on a rope through the gap in the magic box's door when bringing the young woman to said box. When the magic trick officially began, the box containing the woman was lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting the balloon containing the water. If all had gone to plan, the young woman would be dissolved at this time. However, Lillian was not from Fontaine, and thus fled the box with a loud noise. Realizing that there was trouble, Cowell entered the tunnel and met Lillian, thinking that the waters had not yet taken effect. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, and he was overcome, knocked unconscious, and placed into the magic box. And thus, Lillian, according to her own statements, then changed clothes and hid until the performance ended. As for Linny, he was in the underground structures within the opera. From this reconstruction of events, we can conclude that Linny, the accused...
Hooray, Linny and Lynette!
While there is much in Linny and Lillian's conduct that should still be investigated separately, this case, at least, can be handed over to the oratories. As such, Linny and Lynette.
Great work, partner.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Next, I think we deserve an explanation, Guard Vaughn. How did you find the water from the primordial sea in Linny's...
Right! Your discovery caused me to make a serious mistake, you know. Or was that not a discovery, but false evidence that you dared to...
I suspect that the accomplice mentioned in Cowell's notes was not Linny, but you, yes? I'm sure you know what you must do to lessen your...
Speak quickly! Unless Unless you want to earn yourself a one-way ticket to Koopa.
I was just following order. We were supposed to place blame for the serial disappearances onto Linny, and thus cause suspicion to fall on the Fatui. The higher-ups said this was the best opportunity.
And now that your plan has fallen through, and the secrets of the water have been revealed, you have become a liability to said higher-ups, yes? Therefore, you would be wise to tell everything you know, and seek the protection of the guard.
Yes, I'll tell you. Our boss discovered that the water can cause people to It can also be made into a potion, which when extremely diluted, can cause people to experience We've been in this business for a while now, and have made decent more off it. The disappearances were also the boss's idea. I mean, this is the boss we're talking about.
And now he can no longer...
Such ruthlessness.
An outrageous act. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
So, we're just going back now? That's...
Traveler, Paimon! Please wait.
Linny...
I know you may not want to speak to me right now. Maybe you don't, but still. Let me thank you again for defending me to the end. Even after you learned that I'm a member of the Fatui, I guess. But regardless, I'd like the opportunity to say I didn't approach you with any ulterior motives or ill intent. I've spoken to you as myself, just plain Linny. As for why I'm a Fatus, it's because the goals of the House of the Hearth align with those of an orphan like me. That was how Father, who you might know as the Knave, approached recruiting us back then too.
The Knave? The one who controls the House of the Hearth? She's your—
That's right. And since we're here, I was wondering, would you mind hearing a story? Back when our parents first died, Lynette and I were left wandering the street. To survive, I took to surreptitiously observing an older street performer who did magic. It took me several days to figure out how. I took my sister through several streets until we found a crowded corner, and we began to perform magic. To my surprise, we proved to be pretty popular, and we could at least stop worrying about where our next meal would come from for a time. But before long, an aristocrat came to me and claimed that he wished to take us in after what.
So you went from orphans to nobility just like that?
That was how we felt at first too. As if fate was on our side and we could say goodbye to those. But I gradually discovered that while we were called foster children, he was really after my talent for. He would constantly take me to all sorts of banquets to garner attention, which he would then use to expand.
That doesn't seem too bad either. Better than roaming the street.
It took a while for me to realize. After one particular performance at a banquet, I discovered that Lynette was not on the same return vehicle as. I waited a long time after we returned home, but she did not come back. I went to that noble's bedroom and asked him about. The answer he gave me was, she caught the eye of the most eminent person at the banquet, so I sent her over as a gift. I mean, you'll be able to perform your magic regardless of who your assistant is, yes?
Oh no. But wouldn't Fontaine's laws deal with—
As far as outsiders are concerned, this is a relationship akin to adoption or foster care, and they have their ways of escaping the eye of the law. I managed to ferret out the location of the mansion of that so-called eminent person and hurried through the night. But by the time I leaped over the walls, avoided the guard, all I saw was the moonlit ground covered in blood. And the Knave.
So, she'd already taken care of—
That's right. She had rescued my sister before she could come to any harm, and had even discovered several girls hidden in a basement. Father, the Knave, might have seen something in me, and so the House of the Hearth welcomes you, for your interests align with ours. Here, none will ever betray you. And I was hesitant to trust her. I had just been— But she was also quick to destroy the noble who had taken us in at first, giving us back our—
Oh, so that's how the two of you—
She has her own. She has gained permission from the Tsaritsa to first use the Gnosis's power once she obtains it. She plans to use it to find a way to break the
So, she believes in that?
That's right. The whole House of the Hearth is currently working to combat Today's case has also proven that people from Fontaine can indeed dissolve into some sort of... All of us house members here, Lady Arlecchino herself included, are from Fontaine. We won't give up on defending. To us orphans, the only connection we have left to this world, apart from...
So, from small deeds like distributing magic pockets to huge schemes like stealing a Gnosis, everything is aimed at dealing with that prophecy.
It's all right. I understand. The only thing I can do is relate all this to you. I just hope you can understand that even as a member of the House, I have never stopped making my own decisions, and that I believe what I'm doing is right. If you should need anything at all in the future, feel free to find me. I will do my best to help you, as plain